Hi, my name is Nicholas Medina, and I'm going to be doing a video presentation for you today on the use of torture, and if it's ever a justifiable action, or if it never is. I've already done a few of these videos, but they come out kind of long and boring, so try and make this one short and quick and enjoyable. To begin, before I say anything else, in 2004, in Afghanistan, in Abu Ghraib prison, did you know that there was photos released of U.S. military guards torturing Afghan prisoners? These people weren't even classified as terrorists; they were only suspected terrorists. But some of the acts performed by our own military guards, they made these prisoners simulate homosexual acts. They released dogs on them. They beat them. They dressed them in women's clothes. They threatened to kill their lives. To kill them, take their lives. Excuse me. And to a lot of people, especially us in the United States, that came as the biggest shock as one can imagine, because those were our own troops that were there performing those actions. And as one can imagine, that just caused so much controversy and really changed a lot of people's views around the world of the United States. A little bit more about the issue. Torture is something that's been around with us for a long time. Today it's mainly used as an information extraction tool by intelligence officials. They get suspected people, they torture them however they find fit in order to get vital information to help save American lives. And there's a lot of controversy with that in itself, but I'll get into that later. And also, there's also the issue of whether our government does support it or doesn't support it, especially during the time of the Bush administration. The Bush administration promised that torture would, when it first came into effect, that torture would not be a part of something that we support as Americans. But in 2001, after 9/11, even though I understand 9/11 was a very hard time for us, he did advocate the use of torture in the events of capturing these terrorists, and there was a lot of controversy with that as well. Regardless, let's go on to the sides of the issue. There are those who are against torture for the obvious reasons. It's a crime against humanity. It's just not a what's it called? Okay, and it's also been claimed that it's not an effective way of gathering information, which in itself is a really big claim, and actually one that has been kind of proven to be true, somewhat true. But yeah, those who are against torture, it's the obvious reasons, because it's not a good thing. It's just something that's very backwards and very barbaric, and nobody would enjoy being tortured, as one would imagine. Furthermore, those who are those who are for torture claim that sometimes when, especially it seems like intelligence officials are the ones who make these claims, it seems like sometimes there are situations, time-critical situations, where one needs to torture an individual in order to extract vital information that is critical to saving lives, American lives. That's pretty much the gist of the claim, the reasoning for why people should support torture. Regardless, those are the views on it. Now, the significance of torture, it's a really big thing. It's a colossal image on a country. It really puts a face on the country, especially of those who do support it. The problem that lies with torture, and in regards to the image it puts on people, is that, for example, the prisoners who were tortured in Afghanistan in Abu Ghraib prison, I'm sorry, I think I might have an interruption. Just excuse it. Eyes on me. Moving on. A big significant factor with torture is it misrepresents nations. It can really misrepresent a nation if a small group of extremists or people who are just not thinking at the moment, such as those prison guards at Afghanistan, people around the world saw those pictures of Americans torturing Afghanistans and making them look like fools. And now the world thinks that we support torture, us Americans. And when you really ask an American if we are like that, nobody will answer yes to torture. I mean, it's just, that's one of the biggest controversies with it, and why it's significant that we don't, if we don't allow it, if we do allow it, then that lets people to assume that about us. And I personally wouldn't want people to think that I support torture, because that's, I just don't support it. Moving on to my views, my position on it. The reasons I don't support it, it's a crime against humanity. I feel that no human deserves to be treated inferior by another human. That's probably the biggest reason. But I also sat down and thought about the reasoning why people are for torture, and I thought long and hard about it, and I did a lot of research. You can't really see research like lab testing research on this, but I saw the words of experts or people who were in those situations, who were in a position to practice the torture, to extract information, and they claimed that a lot of the claims that people who believe torture is useful for getting information, that it's not actually useful for getting information, that in fact torture leads to false claims and to lies, and not so often it doesn't lead to an actual honest withdrawal of correct information. And that to me was the biggest thing, just knowing that the strongest argument that people who support torture is very flawed, and it has a lot of loopholes in it. And to me, people can use torture as a way of getting vengeance on somebody, and inflicting pain on somebody who may have done hurt to you. But in terms of information extraction, it doesn't seem to be efficient. Just like the lie detector test, it was not efficient. At first it seemed like it worked because, I don't know, I guess there was a lot of hype about it, but eventually we tossed the idea out because it wasn't foolproof. And why shouldn't we do the same with the use of torture if it's probably even less accurate than a lie detector test? And another big reason, and I'm going to close my presentation on this, torture is something that is very backwards and barbaric, and condoning the use of it for whatever reason is just not good, because it makes humanity take steps backwards, instead of progress forward to a more understanding and more tolerable place. And to me, that's just the biggest thing about it too, is that nothing good can come out of it, no matter what claim you put forth for it. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end my presentation on that note. I hope I wasn't too twitchy. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much, but yeah, I also hope you guys don't support torture. But yeah, thank you. My name is Nicholas Athena, and you have a nice weekend.